Hello, and welcome to my presentation on FERPA and student data. Keeping our students safe at Smith Elementary. To start, what is FERPA? Well, FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and this is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records and the personally identifiable information contained therein maintained by educational agencies or institutions or by a party acting for those agencies or institutions. Federal funding and FERPA. Any school that receives federal funding from the government must comply with FERPA. They must preserve the confidentiality of student education records and the personally identifiable information therein. A student's image is considered an educational record if the photo or video is directly related to a student. When considering if a video is directly related to a student, there are 4 components to consider. First, if the recording is used for disciplinary action involving the student. This includes the victim. Second, if the recording depicts an activity that would reasonably result in the use of disciplinary action, showing a student violating the law, showing a student getting injured or attacked or victimized, or having an emergency. Third, if the school intends to make the specific student the focus of the recording. So for example, for ID photos. And last, if the content contains personally identifiable information from a student's education record. If a school is not in compliance with FERPA, their federal funding may be revoked. Surveillance cameras are often a hot topic when it comes to FERPA in schools. Video surveillance that does not violate the Fourth Amendment would be things such as hallway footage, stairwell footage, classrooms footage, school buses footage, and school parking lot footage. However, there are some video surveillance that does violate the Fourth Amendment, such as bathroom footage and locker room footage. Oftentimes, parents request access to surveillance recordings. If a video is considered directly related to a student, it must be disclosed to parents. The school personnel should attempt to redact or segregate the portion of the video that pertains to a specific child involved. If this unfortunately is not possible, then all parents and all students recorded have the right to view it. Also, it does not violate FERPA to provide copies of the recordings to the parents. Law enforcement often also requests access to video surveillance recordings. Unless the recording in question was created and held by a school's law enforcement unit, this video cannot be shared with law enforcement officials. This would be violating FERPA. If a request from law enforcement officials is made to view the recording footage, all written consents from the parents is required before being able to submit this video to law enforcement officials. There are some exceptions, of course. For example, health concern, safety concern, or a court subpoena. There are also some exceptions when it comes to immigration. Vendors and FERPA. Schools are responsible for what their vendors do with data. Be sure to check that the vendors you choose are FERPA compliant. It is usually safer to only use vendors that are approved at the district level. Denver Public Schools has a list that can be accessed on the DPS board docs. What does FERPA look like in the classroom? Do not use websites that require your students to enter personally identifiable information unless it has been approved by a supervisor or your school's technology officer. Be sure that any student data you have in your possession in your classroom is secure at all times. Any requests from parents or law enforcement officials should be forwarded to the administration office to check for legal parents in order to be compliant with FERPA. We must be sure that any information that is released to parents are only released to those that are legal guardians.